I hope you all have plenty to eat, and you'll be able to go back and get more. Can you hear me back there? Okay. We like to get started because we have some speakers, and some of them have prior commitments they're going to have to get out of here. So to start with, I want to introduce the e-board from the Southland Friends of Labor. Tim Dunlap, Local 731 Teamsters. Bill Hinkelberger, UAW, Local 588. Dave Maine, Retired Laborers, Local 5. Kevin Watson, AFG.E, Council 31. Lori Summers, Registered Nurse. James Arandi, Local Attorney. And Pete Campos Heating. And myself, Steve Schurch, Carpenters Local 272. There's a couple more that didn't come up front here. From the committee, Robert Howard. Bob Hennessy. And a couple others that couldn't make it, Joel Brown and Doug Price. On your table, you have our mission statement as far as our Southland Friends of Labor. There's a list of the people that have donated and contributed to our breakfast here this morning. A lot of them are repeat. We started last year. It was the first one. This is our second annual. And we appreciate the big turnout. It shows that the people in the area are very interested in the issues of what's going on politically, jobs and such. So I'd like to just run through the list of donators for this because we have a couple of the sponsors that had signed in late. We didn't get it on the sheet. We apologize for that. Ricardo Loza, SEIU Local number 73, Labor's Local 269, one more written down here. But we have Don King, Frankfort Township, Democratic Party. He is a retired pipe fitter. And one other thing, the UAW was very kind to let us have the hall, which is a big thing, and also the Chicago Southland Chamber of Commerce. These are ones that come in later. You got the rest of the list, and I'm sure I don't need to bore you and read through, but we do really respect and honor the people that donated to make this happen. I'd like to, at this time, just introduce a few of the politicians in the area that are here. We have several of them in attendance. Tim Dunlap, Trustee for Linwood. Kevin Watson, Trustee of Bloom Township. Eugene Williams, Mayor of Linwood. Rich Stevens, Trustee of Linwood. Willie Sims, Trustee of Linwood. Joe Stampa, Chicago Heights Park District and Bloom Highway Commissioner. Bob Howard, Will County Board, District 1. Debra Sims, Cook County Commissioner. John Ostenburg, Mayor of Park Forest. John Willard, Democratic Party Chair of Kankakee. And one of my all-time favorites, Debbie Halvorson. We have one more person that we, if anyone didn't sign, but I have one more I want to really bring special attention to, and that's Joan Patricia Murphy. Joan said she's with the Water Rec and has come in, Michigan, sorry. She has gone to the communities in the area with responsible bidder language. And for some of you that don't know what that is, it really the key issue in it is training, education, apprenticeship, which a lot of us know that that's key to having qualified workers. It's also a major part of keeping the construction costs down by using apprentices. And Joan sees the value of that. She's gone to the different communities in the area she covers and is trying to push that. So, I mean, that's huge for all of us. So I think we should give her another round of applause for that. Now, I'm going to introduce these next gentlemen, and I'll go through the introductions first, and then we'll call them up to speak. Bob Reiter is here, representing the Chicago Federation of Labor. Tom Villanova, Cook County Building Trades. Ron Zier, Will County Building Trades. I don't believe he can make it today. Steve McGruder, Kankakee Building Trades. Mark Harris with IDOT. And Kenneth Brucks with H.U.D. What we wanted to do with this breakfast this morning was talk more about jobs and to bring people, give them some avenue to talk, ask questions of people that are involved with the different parts of the unions, from teachers to construction, you name it, we covered all. But jobs are the biggest thing going. And we see it across the board, what's going on in Wisconsin. How they attack the people, middle income. They're not rich, they're not wealthy people, but let's attack the working people. And we just want to bring people to the table to understand our issues with work. Let them talk about jobs in the area and what we see coming up. Hopefully we can make things a little better around here. So first I'm going to call on Bob Reiter, because Jorge couldn't make it this morning, to come up and just speak a little bit.
You know, on behalf of myself and Jorge, who couldn't be here today, I want to thank the Southland Friends of Labor, not only for having me here today, but for doing the work that they do and building this coalition between government and labor. I grew up in Orland Park. When I was at the local, I come from local 150 operating engineers, I'm a third generation member. Part of my route was representing our public sector groups from Kankakee all the way around South Cook County and out to Will County. So I know the important role that politics plays in this region, both from a building trades end and also from a public sector end. And Steve's right. Everybody in here who's thinking this way is right. Jobs is still the most important thing on the agenda. And when we look at jobs, it's not just creating more jobs, it's also the way our workers are being treated in the jobs they have right now. And that's the fight that we have going on in Wisconsin. The labor movement's been under attack for quite a while now. And what we've seen by what our friends up in Wisconsin are doing is that they're getting out there, they're educating, they're standing up for their rights. And all across the Midwest, folks have been going up to Madison. The CFL's been sending buses up there. A lot of our affiliates, I know guys from sheet metal workers, they're just jumping in cars and running up there. And it's not just about public sector employees rallying to help public sector employees. It's about people from all across the labor movement jumping together and following through and supporting those workers. As part of that effort, what we're doing here in Illinois is it's called the We Are One campaign. This is something that the AFL-CIO is doing all around the country. And you know, one of the key days that they're doing it on as a national campaign is on April 4th. And I'm mentioning April 4th because I don't want anybody to be confused by what we're doing here in Illinois, because we're special here and we do things a little bit differently. But April 4th is an important day, and even though, you know, we're going to be doing events all that week, I want to point out the significance of that day. You know, April 4th is the anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination, and for those of you, because they don't teach labor history in schools like they should. I know our teachers want to do it, but the administrators don't necessarily put it in the curriculum. April 4th, Martin Luther King was down in Memphis, Tennessee, I believe. I think it was Memphis. He was there to support the sanitation workers for AFG.E who were going through a fight of their own. So we've had this constant bridge between civil rights and the labor movement and how they work together, and we need to remember that on April 4th. But here in Illinois, starting on Saturday, April 2nd, all across the state for that whole week, we're going to have events commemorating, bringing together these unity rallies with people from all across the labor movement getting together. And as we do that all across the week, we're going to start driving people to one big event in Chicago on April 9th. On Saturday, April 9th in downtown Chicago, we're going to have the finale, so to speak, of this week of unity here in Illinois. So what we want is to get as many of you folks, whether you're from Chicago, Kankakee, or you have your friends downstate, let's get them all down. We're going to converge on downtown. We're even going to have staging areas downtown where people can get together and then walk to the final event. Hopefully it's going to be at the Daily Center, but we're still working on that. So it'll be 1 o'clock on April 9th. Now, we have another event, and hopefully this will build to this event as well. We sometimes forget what the real Labor Day in this country is, and no disrespect to the holiday we have in September, but as I was at a rally last night, I reminded everyone that we had some gentlemen give their lives fighting for the 8-hour workday, and the Chicagoland area is the hometown of the American labor movement. So we're going to be commemorating Haymarket, the tragedy of Haymarket, on May Day up at this cemetery in Forest Park where the original Haymarket statue is. Now, I know it's interesting that we're having two big events because we have two things going on. We have the national campaign where everybody across the country's got to pull together, but Illinois is a special place. If we can put hundreds of thousands of people up in Madison, Wisconsin, we should be able to handle two events here. And I think the one event should build into the other event, because we need to make sure that our friends in government understand that we're still together and that work with us. Work with us. We're here to work with you. But we are the labor movement, and we're not going anywhere. One other thing that sort of ties into that I just want to bring up briefly. I was on my way, and I want you to be aware of it. It ties into this message of unity, and it ties into all these things that are going on in the states around us. I was on my way in today, crossing the Thornton Quarry, which I've done a million times in the past, and on News Radio 780, there's this commercial running about how 95% of the state citizens are paying for the pension and benefits for 5% of the public workers. Now, I know we have a mixed crowd here. We have a lot of private sector folks. We have some public sector folks. I want to leave you with this. We're gonna start getting inundated in this state from special interest groups under the new campaign finance law rules federally that allow people to hide in the dark and pour money in and make the lives of our friends miserable on issues like this, and trying to turn us against one another. Remember, those public sector employees in the state of Illinois, they're not taking free handouts at the window for their retirement and their health care. These are people that provide vital services to our citizens here in the state of Illinois, in the Chicagoland area. So remember, stay together, stay united, and I hope to see everyone here on April 9th in downtown Chicago. Thank you.
Before I call the next speaker, I want to make sure that also announce our local state senator, Toy Hutchinson, is also here today with us. Now I'd like to introduce Tom Villanova. Tom is with Cook County Building Trades, and known this guy for about, 18 years. And he's definitely a strong union leader.
Let's get this crowd going. Let's go. We're in the House of Labor here with the UAW. Thanks everybody for coming here this morning. I had the privilege and the honor of representing 100,000 hardworking men and women in Chicago and Cook County building trades. And make no mistake about it, we're in a full-on assault for our lives and our livelihoods. A little quote to read here, and I want somebody to guess who this came from, and I'll tell you right off the bat, it's not Scott Walker, the governor from Wisconsin. We must close union offices, confiscate their money, and put their leaders in prison. We must reduce workers' salaries and take away their right to strike. Not Scott Walker, Adolf Hitler in 1933. So this is what we're looking at. We've got to stick together. Thank you to all the board of the Southland for the good job that they do up here. They're doing a great job of keeping everybody's feet to the fire. We need loyal politicians. We've got a bunch of them here today. I'm tired of getting phone calls when elected officials need money. They need votes. They need our bodies to work door to door on a Saturday and a Sunday. And then when it gets difficult to be labor's friend, they turn their backs on us. We've got enough of those. We're not going to take it anymore. We're tired of taking it. I took a call Monday from a young lady that I had in class when I taught at the apprenticeship at the IBW. Her husband has cancer. She's walking a picket line for $50 a day. She called to thank us for walking the $50 for walking the picket line. She hasn't worked in a year and a half. She's getting divorced on paper so she can get her annuity money out so they don't lose their home and she can pay for her husband's hospital bills. Enough is enough with this stuff. We need people that are our friends and elected positions to help our members. We're going to talk about a real touchy subject. We were in Bloomington yesterday with the state building trades meeting. The governor came to speak to the group. And we had a bill, Senate Bill 3388. Last Monday, the governor vetoed this bill. Anybody who knows 116th and Burley, it's a brownfield sitting there where the steel mill was. With a $3 billion project that asked for no state money, none. $3 billion, 1,250 construction jobs for 3 years. 265 full-time jobs for as long as the coal gasification plant was running. The governor let it sit on his desk for 60 days. We passed it through the House, we passed it through the Senate with bipartisan support. The governor let it sit on his desk for 60 days and then vetoed it. I want him to take those phone calls from my members that are losing their homes, their families, their benefits, and understand what this is about. He's siding with the Sierra Club. The Sierra Club, what a great group. They're against anything that my group does. Is anything that gets built or against. The job was going to sequester 85% of the emissions. 85%. When we heard this coming out of the Sierra Club, I testified in the Senate and the House, we heard their opposition. Lucchini, the people that own the plant, went and did a study. The Art Institute expansion in downtown Chicago has more emissions than this plant is going to have. And we had an elected official that we elected side with the Sierra Club instead of with us to get 1,250 jobs. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's got to change. On a good note, working together, we're in a UAW hall. The Ford plant, what a success story down the street. 2 years ago, there was a proposal. I flew out to Washington to go in front of the board. Our members, Chicago and Cook County Building Trades members, were going to work for 90% of wages at that plant. We agreed for 2 years to be a part of the solution. You don't hear about this in all the rag sheets that are out there. Our members that have worked there for the last 2 years have worked for 90% of wages to be a part of the solutions to make sure that we build stuff in America. And what a great place to be when I pull in the parking lot and see American-made cars in the parking lot. Navistar in Melrose Park where they build the diesel engines. We've been in talks there for 3 months, almost 4 months. Navistar was talking about moving to Mexico, moving somewhere. They were going to combine 3 other plants and move somewhere. We talked to them. The A.G.E, Lisa Madigan, came in on these talks. They moved their corporate headquarters to Lisle. The Melrose Park facility that's been manufacturing engines for 100 years, 100 years. They're going to combine 3 plants, build everything in Melrose Park, keep 3,000 jobs here in Melrose Park, in the Chicago area. These are the kind of elected officials we need on our side, the ones that understand what our members are going through. Last year when I was here, I talked about Debbie Halvorson, a good friend in the building trades. When we passed misclassification, it got real ugly. Debbie and I and Mike Kerrigan were sitting in her office at 8:30 at night when the revolt started. We had a group that was against us. But you know what? They kept on bugging Debbie, you got to change this, you got to change that, you got to do this, you got to weaken the bill. She has stood tough with us the whole time. That bill passed, and it's law now because of people like Debbie Halvorson. And it's great. I know Steve talked about Joan Murphy. Joan's a great friend. She's been with us. Nobody's worked harder on different legislation in the Cook County Board. County Commissioner Simpson's here. She's always been on our side. Mike Maslow from the laborers has been going around with responsible bidder. For those people that don't understand responsible bidder, it's very simple. Doesn't mention anything about union, non-union. So all those people that get all crazy about we can't do this because it says union, non-union, whatever we want to say. That's how we crafted the bill. All it says is you have to be a member of a participating U.S. Department of Labor apprenticeship program. And who do we want doing our jobs, building our buildings, building our schools that our children are in, but a trained, safe workforce? It just so happens we have the only U.S. DOL approved apprenticeship programs in the area. So it works out real well for everybody. Well, I want to close in this. We all need to stick together more so now than ever in the past. And there's one other thing I looked at. Retirees. I see some retirees out here. If it wasn't for you, men and women, none of us would have what we have. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you, Southland.
Thank you, Tom. I just want to say a little something on what he said about what the words from Adolf Hitler spoke. That was about 10 years ago. Myself and a guy I worked with, Dennis Farmer, we're in Washington, D.C., and we went through the Holocaust Museum with our wives, and there was a placard in there at about the end of the tour through there, and I had never realized it before, but it was there in writing in the Holocaust Museum in Washington. The first people Adolf Hitler had killed were Union leaders. So that says a lot. Now, a little cheerier note, let's, hey, gotta take the good with the bad. I've got a speaker now, he's got another commitment, so I'm gonna call him up now, Mark Harris. He is with IDOT. So.
I hope I don't get booed out of here. I'm actually in the governor's office. So I'm here actually to talk about transportation issues with you today. I certainly appreciate the comments of Mr. Villanova. There you are. Governor's with you yesterday. Certainly it's great to be here. I think I'm here representing Governor Quinn and really all that we're doing in the region, certainly for Navistar. We were at the forefront of what the governor was in the Department of Commerce to really bring those jobs and keep those jobs here. Obviously this region, South Cook, Will, Grundy, Kankakee counties represent one of the largest and fastest growing areas of the state. Although there's still much to be done, I think we are showing signs of promise in the economy. We have the 13th month of declining unemployment. February was the lowest on record in 2 years. So I think part of what is setting Illinois apart is that we have the largest capital construction program in the nation. And in 2009, Governor Quinn, with help from members of the General Assembly, Senator Hutchinson, who's here today, helped pass Illinois Jobs Now, which is a $31 billion capital construction plan that is really creating good construction jobs and will continue to do so for the next 5 years. Total, the state has issued about $4 billion in bonds to fund these critical projects. And last week, Governor signed year 2 of authorization for that, which is about $5.6 billion. So, core to these investments, obviously, it's our schools, it's our community colleges, universities, but transportation, which I'll focus on today, and a number of projects in the region that will not only start this particular construction season, but also long-term growth opportunities as well. IDOT had the largest construction road season on record last year, which I think is really a testament to all the money that's flowing out in those particular projects. In this upcoming construction season, it's going to be $2.68 billion and another $100 million in capital funds via the local motor fuel tax. So a lot of the local municipalities are getting additional money this year as well. So some of the regional projects that are going to be boots on the ground this construction season that I wanted to highlight include US 30 to US 45, additional ad lanes there. I-80 Grundy County line to US 30 resurfacing and bridge repair there as well. US 45 LaGrange Road, north of 131st Street to 179th Street. There's going to be a new, I believe work actually is happening there already, a new bridge replacement and a new pedestrian bridge. US Route 30 east of William Street to Route 43, additional lanes. I-55 and Arsenal Road, Governor was there announcing that last summer. It's a 2-year project, reconstructing that interchange, and is helping a lot with intermodal truck traffic there. I-55, 355 to County Line Road. This is actually a resurfacing, and it's part of a bus on shoulder demonstration that will start this fall as an innovative transit project where buses will be able to drive along the shoulders and a dedicated pace route to get downtown quicker. I-55 at Central Avenue, that's an interchange reconstruction and bridge replacement. Central Avenue from 63rd and 87th Street. I know this is a very critical one to those of you who are in that area. Phase 1 and Phase 2 engineering will begin this summer. So that's really a taste of some of the road projects on deck for this spring and summer, and obviously wouldn't be possible without all of the dedicated members of the labor community here. And I think in order to maintain the long-term competitiveness of the region, the governor understands that it's not about, obviously the Capitol bill plants the seeds for these projects, it's also about long-term vision for the region in all modes. It's roads, it's rail, it's transit, it's air. And so I want to highlight some of these big ticket projects as well that the governor has been initiated or supported. I see many of you actually were at the event we had last summer for I-294 and I-57, which we made an initial $28 million commitment to reconstruct that bridge. It's a first step to creating a much long overdue connection point. I think it's like one of the only two places in the country where two major interstates don't connect. And I think it's indicative of the fact that when you build access there, it opens up corridors of growth and obviously short-term and long-term jobs as well. So we're working with the federal government on phasing this project. It's about $600 million. It involves a lot of moving parts, but we were able to accelerate, get it started, about 6,000 permanent and indirect jobs and about 7,500 construction jobs. Ileana Expressway, I'm sure many of you here were with us in Lansing with Governor Quinn and Governor Daniels. New highway providing much needed access to Will County's growing freight and logistics centers, and also serves the fast growing residential population as well. Legislation was signed to help create the Ileana, which would connect I-65 in Indiana to I-55 in Illinois, not only providing obviously an alternate route to the I-80-94 corridor, but also attracting new logistics, new manufacturing companies who want to come to Illinois and have greater access to the marketplace here. This is obviously a big new initiative. It would be 14,000 permanent jobs and estimated to be about 4,300 construction jobs. To give you an update of where we are on this, Phase 1 environmental contracts have been let. That is being expedited by the federal government. Both the Illinois Department of Transportation and the Indiana Department of Transportation have made a request to the U.S. Department of Transportation to expedite all approvals, and we're very hopeful we'll have about a year and a half process for that. For Phase 1, hoping we don't encounter any unexpected complications, of course. And then after that process, it will be initiating, I think, really the heavy lift for this, and how to finance it and how to construct it. So it obviously entails a large financial commitment, but I think what's helpful here is we have two governors with vision. You have two departments of transportation, as well as coordination with our tollway as well, to make sure that we will advance this project in the best way we can. And I think what I was told yesterday, not to overcommit on the date we would start, but the best case scenario, if all stars align, 2016 for construction. So that's one in the future. We can think about how it's going to improve the economy of this region. Metro Southeast Service, I don't know if Mayor Don DeGraff is here, but I wanted to recognize the efforts of not only him, but really all of the member community leaders and also labor leaders in the region to advance that project in a meaningful way. I read a stat at the signing where we signed legislation earlier this month, that less than 30% of Will County homes have access to transit. And it's pretty astounding when you see that Will County is the largest growing county in our state, and that many homes are sort of having to drive, having to commute, having to go far from home. So I think part of what the Southeast Service Line would do would connect 22 communities along the line between Crete and downtown, including right here in Chicago Heights. Senator Hutchinson is here, was a sponsor of that legislation, and I know we were in South Holland to sign that a few weeks ago. It's a $778 million project. It's not cheap. We're working with Metro, and I think it would be the most significant investment of mass transit in the region. And I think, again, we work very closely with these communities to really creatively think about how we finance it and how we fund it, and get the federal government also on board. I did also want to mention the Intermodal Facilities Promotion Act. Not far from here, we have very strategically located intermodal facilities. We have UP in Joliet, BNSF in Elwood, the CN Logistics Park in Harvey. These are all engines for the economy. Over 1/3 of all freight traffic passes through Illinois. Freight industry represents more than $8 billion per year in the local economy. You cannot underscore how important these are for today's, but also tomorrow's jobs. And Governor Quinn has signed legislation to help initiate investment tools along these corridors, along these parks, and we want to continue to spur development and also ease congestion, continue to do so. Governor Quinn also supports the South Suburban Airports, which is another integral component to this multimodal vision for transportation. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't mention high-speed rail. We were earlier this week with Senator Durbin, the FRA, UP, to really celebrate what I think other states would be very short-sighted about, where you have states like Wisconsin who are returning money, Florida returning money, really being visionary, I think, is what we're trying to do in Illinois, to have a network here that will be based really in Chicago, the hub of this rail network. It was a $685 million agreement we announced earlier this week, part of the $1.2 billion that we received from the federal government to initiate this rail line between Chicago and St. Louis. Would bring speeds up to 110 miles per hour with gas prices skyrocketing. And I think Amtrak has had record levels to date, and I think we want to make sure we continue to enhance rail as a sort of 21st century option to make sure that we keep competing with other states and nations as well. What I wanted to highlight too is that we are a top railway supply state. Right here in our backyard, we have Funklinko in Chicago Heights, National Railway Equipment Company in Dixmoor. These are key areas and key industries that we want to continue growing in Illinois. Out of that $1.2 billion, more than half, about $650 million, are going to be competitively selected. So we encourage companies, contractors, especially those here in the region, to bid on those as well. So I guess in closing, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Governor Quinn is committed, and we'll continue to work together with those of you in the region. None of these projects would be possible without the dedicated workforce that we have and the labor that we have in this region. So I thank you, and we'll look forward to being in touch.
Thank you, Mark. Our next speaker, Kenneth Brucks. He's president of the A.F.G.E. Local 911. He also works with HUD.
I'm here with my union hat on, though. I want you to know that. I want my bosses to know that. But, this is about jobs. The signs you see, by the way, we help pay for. America wants jobs, not shutdowns. So when you talk about the different activities that are happening, be that in Cook County, the state of Illinois, Will County, you have to look at a lot of that money is coming from the HUD budget. But there's a bigger battle, as Tom mentioned, I think, happening in this country. And I want to touch on that because I think it's so important. I go back to being a kid. I was raised in Beverly area, and one of those movies we watch every year, my brother still watches it, It's a Wonderful Life. And you know what Mr. Potter, the greedy Mr. Potter, did to the town, right? But Jimmy Stewart, thank God, was rescued by Clarence. He really was there to help the people keep their homes, and they turned it around. It didn't become Potterville. Well, I think we're becoming Potterville. I really do. What's happening in our country, maybe it's not democracy versus Nazism, might be, but it's certainly democracy versus oligarchy. Now, I'm a political science major from St. Louis University. I had to look up oligarchy. But it's true. What is oligarchy? It's a form of government in which the ruling power belongs to a few people. Look at Wisconsin, folks. Look at Governor Walker on the telephone with the Koch brothers, and you tell me that's not a form of oligarchy running Wisconsin. But oh, yes, Governor, you bring down the unions, and when we're done, we'll bring you to Cali on vacation. The governor says that'd be outstanding. That's a quote. Look it up on YouTube. So 15 million people are out of work in the United States, but we don't have any major jobs, Bill. I mean, Illinois is trying, the unions are trying wherever we can to get people back to work. But right now, many of those in power in the House, too, are more interested with curtailing spending and maybe curtailing bargaining rights of unions than they are about jobs. How did we get here? Let's just go back. I could go back to 1980 and show you how the middle class hasn't really grown since 1980. But let's just go back to 2000 when Bill Clinton handed the ball off to George Bush. George Bush didn't get as many votes as Al Gore in 2000, you might recall. But the Supreme Court, a small group of men, broke precedent, didn't let Florida decide it. They decided who was president. Now, Al Gore was going to create a lockbox for Social Security. Some of you retirees out there might be interested in that. That's what he said. That's what it's about. I'm going to have a lockbox for Social Security. But he didn't, well, he got the most votes, but he didn't get elected. So what happened? So Bush comes in, the first thing he does is a tax cut. A huge tax cut. And Alan Greenspan said, we can afford the tax cut, no problem. Where did most of the money go? The upper 2% of Americans. The overwhelming majority of the money, like 80% of it went up to the upper 2%. We have to remember that. Then they started 2 wars off the books. The wars were not on the books. Now they're back on the books. Also, so the tax cut, Bush's tax cut was for 10 years, so you know, it just came up again. Now are we going to renew this tax cut? Can we afford this tax cut? Well, you didn't hear a lot of people say, no, we have a problem, we can't really afford this. They said, of course we have to keep the tax cut for the middle class. The Democrats said, fine, we'll keep it for the middle class, but how about the rich? Over 250,000. They said, no, that's too low by today's standards. So Democrats said, how about over $1 million a year? We'll just tax that group. Couldn't even get the bill on the floor to be voted on. And what do we have? More deregulation. Greenspan. There's not a housing bubble. There's no problem with these mortgage swaps. I don't have to tell you, there was a housing bubble and there were problems with the mortgage swaps. And what was the answer? Privatize, privatize, privatize. So Obama gets elected, all of a sudden the bill comes due. The wars are back on the books. You know, we don't have any money. You know, and then running up to the 2010 election, you know, they said, well, yeah, Obama lost because he didn't focus on jobs, and the people want. He focused on health care too much. And so some people didn't get their job because he wasn't as focused as he should be. So the House went over, as some people here would know. And what is it about? Is it about jobs? Is there a jobs bill coming out of the House? No, it's about deficits, deficits, deficits. And people, 15 million people are still out of work. So we have to do something about that. We have to respond to that. We have to create more jobs. We're down a little bit, we're down to 8.9%, but there's still 15 million people out there scrambling, and a lot of people are in jobs where they don't belong. But with the 8.9%, we've added 10% plus 10% to federal revenues. What you have to see is there's more than one way to treat the deficit, and the best structural way is to create jobs. So the battle is on. And I'm calling on you to contact your senators, because quite frankly, we have 90 new players in the House and they're not listening. Contact your senators about not cutting the budget right now. Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize-winning economist from Princeton, says we should look at the deficit. We have structural problems we have to look at. They're not talking about it, they're talking about discretionary spending. When we get down to 7.5%, we have a ways to go. We've got to get people back to work. So that's what we have to do. So the American people, if this is a democracy, all the polls show they don't want cuts in these social programs. The polls also show they do not want curtailment of union bargaining rights. The American people do not want that. What do they want? They say cut defense. Defense has a lot of, you know, President Eisenhower, you go back to 1950, he warned us, he has a lot of fat in it. Our defense budget is 6 times that of our nearest competitor, China. 6 times. Our defense budget is more than every country in the world combined. There is some room that we could cut in there to save our jobs. But when you call your senator, tell him don't take too much out of the HUD budget either. Not that I'm just trying to save my job. There's the same number of federal employees in 2011 as there were when John F. Kennedy was inaugurated. About 2 million. The same number, serving more people. But what it's about is your jobs. So they want to pull $2.9 billion out of the HUD budget. They want to pull, and this is important for all the counties in the state, $118 million in the second half of 2011 out of the Community Development Block Grant Funds. It's over $100 million in Ohio. And where does that money go? It goes to housing development. It's jobs for carpenters. It's jobs for plumbers, for electricians. We don't build those things. You know, we just kind of run the programs. It's for improvement to public facilities. It's for seniors and youth centers. It's for whatever economic development activities that the local community says they need it for. So you want to protect the community development CDBG funds. You want to protect public housing capital funds. I met a couple of guys at the federal building Carpenters last week, and they told me we got to get more money for Alt-Gil. I'm there. That's right. Don't let them cut, which they want to, hundreds of millions out of the public housing capital fund. That'll do Alt-Gil Gardens, Lathrop Homes, the Pomeroy building in my neighborhood at Hollywood and Kenmore, which sat vacant for lack of funds, still got a little stimulus money. 202 senior buildings, we need more senior buildings. They're cutting that budget for 2011, which is at the same number as 2010, and now we have to fight for 2012. So what my message is you've got to get to your senators. You've got to tell them, don't kill the recovery, because that's what a really austere budget will do. It'll kill the recovery. What has happened to those countries like Ireland and Britain that went to the austere budget? They went from like a 9.8% unemployment rate to a 13.5% unemployment rate. Is that what we want? No, it's not. We want jobs. So my message to you is to spread the word. Your family, your friends. This is about grassroots democracy. The union's got to be in the lead here to protect our democracy and to get more jobs. It's not about socialism, as they like to say, it's about social justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. One of the things that I think it really comes out strong in this venue that we have here, Tom Villanova had touched on it before, especially with the retirees. You've gone through a lot of things. This is one of the most devastating times in our economy. Some of you, I don't see anyone in here that probably maybe know a little bit about the Depression, but what we're going through is every bit as bad. So what the retirees can really do is educate the young people. You know, a good sound voice from someone that knows, gone through tough times. We need to also pass that on. Now our last speaker that I'm going to call up, she's a local state senator. Put her on the spot a little bit. Let her talk about the jobs that they're going to create. Toy Hutchinson. I waited until she's in the back corner to get up there.
Hey everybody, I was just going to come and say, hey, but there's been a lot of stuff that's actually on my mind. I've been watching the news coverage in Wisconsin, and I'm trying to figure out how people sitting around at a table actually discussing what pay and benefits are going to be is a budget issue. Since when does talking or discussing or debating or negotiating what your benefits are and what your pay is something that ruins a budget? So this right now, we got to be clear about what's happening. This is ideological warfare, and it's happening under the guise of jobs and the budget and all this debt and all this stuff. It's happening under the guise of that. So you gotta recognize it for what it is. It's warfare. It's about the fact that they no longer want to acknowledge that the whole reason we have a middle class is because of the labor movement. That's it. The whole reason we have it. Right now, I am part of that sandwich generation. I'm a working mother, I take care of my kids, but I also care for aging parents and aging grandparents. And I was looking at my grandfather, who did everything that he was supposed to do. He worked his entire life and paid all his taxes. He invested for his retirement. It was not his fault that the bottom fell out of the market, right when he needed it the most. So every time I hear somebody say, we need to privatize Social Security, we need to privatize benefits, we need to go after people's pensions. And I'm looking at those folks who retired between 1996 and 2000 on those 401ks. How's that working for you? How is that working for you? When people had a protected pension to take care of them in their retirement years, we didn't have people who worked their entire lives standing in the soup lines. These are folks that paid their bills, paid their taxes, raised their families, did everything we told them they were supposed to do. And now that is what's under attack. Please recognize this for what it is. So I'm here, I look at the sea of faces. I understand that there's a whole lot more month left at the end of that check. I get that, because it is for me too. I get that. It's hard right now, and it's scary right now. But we have to stand firm with the people who we know are standing with us. Because if we don't, I have no idea what to expect for 2012. I passed the Employee Free Choice Act resolution in the state Senate as a 20-minute-old appointed state senator target. Everyone told me run from that bill. But I kind of think that if you want to be in a union, you should be in a union. You shouldn't have to be able to go through all these union busting tactics to I got here just talking about a number of transportation projects. It was funny to listen to all the wonderful things about the Indiana Expressway. I sponsored that bill. That was my bill. Indiana Expressway is my bill. The Southeast Service Metro Rail line. That's my bill too. Because I believe in this town. I believe in this area. I believe in this community. And if I didn't have hope for what was going to happen and our ability to rise from this, because nothing good comes without a struggle. But if I didn't have hope for our ability to leave where we are right now and continue to dream, continue to build something, because we are going to come out of this. I know it. And I get what's on my prayer list. I get what's on my prayer list. That means all of you are included in that. We are going to come out of this. Stand firm, stand tall. Don't keep fighting. Don't let them take away what we rightfully earned. Rightfully earned. Stand today and say enough is enough.
Thank you, Joy. Now, I said that was the last speaker, but I do have to introduce one more person here. I've got to read a little background on this person. He's on our e-board. He's running for office. There's no question, if you know the guy, you know he's 100% union all the way. Dave has been a member of the Labor's Local since 1975. He was Olympia Terrace Youth Association president, Chicago Heights Park District Commissioner, Building Committee for School District 161, Business Representative, Secretary Treasurer of Labor's Local 5 before he retired. Presently, he's works with schools as an umpire. I've known Dave for over 30 years, and I could go into a lot of stories with this guy, from hot sauce and sugar to you name it, but I don't think this would be quite the place. So I just want to introduce Dave Maine. He's running for Board of Trustees for Prairie State College. So, Dave Maine.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming. I appreciate you spending your time and trying to have labor stick together here, and that's what this is all about. And I'm running for office because our Southland Friends of Labor is an organization that tries to get laborers, friends of laborers, relatives to run for office. The only way we're going to get things done in any of the venues of trustees for towns or townships or state reps or anything is to have somebody that's actually in labor. You know what it is to be a person of labor. You have that in your heart, and you can convey that to other people. And we really need that, as we need some politicians that are labor people. And, I won't say that I'm going to be a politician because I'm always going to be part of labor. If I get elected, I will fight for labor at Prairie State College and try to tell those people what labor is all about, because some of them have no clue. So that's what this organization is about. It's to keep together, it's to stand together. It's in the Southland. We want people to run for office from here to Kankakee to up north. And if there's anybody that has a labor person or friend of labor that wants to run for office, please tell us, and we will support them. And they will understand, and they will bring to the table, and they'll explain labor issues, just as Tom does and the other presenters today. We need that. It's the only way we're going to survive if we have labor people run for office. I believe that 100%, and that's what I'm doing this now for. And I really wish that we would do that. Bring it to me, bring it to the Southland Friends of Labor, bring it to the building trades, bring it to SEIU, bring it to ASPE, bring it somewhere that labor people get elected, and we will survive. That's all I can say. I really appreciate the time and you guys coming out for us. Thank you very much.